Good evening and welcome to the Channel Studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. There are growing concerns over the impact the conflict in Ukraine could have on global food supplies, particularly on countries in Africa.
Today, Russia's artillery is bombarding grain warehouses in Ukraine, deliberately.
European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen says Russia has been using food supplies as a weapon with global repercussions. In response, the Kremlin said the West had triggered a global crisis by imposing the severest sanctions in modern history on Russia. Ukraine is often called the breadbasket of Europe. With Russia and Ukraine producing around 30% of the world's wheat supplies, difficulties around food exports have sent global prices soaring since the start of the war. The US president has said that the crisis in Ukraine was a global issue which heightened the importance of maintaining international order, territorial integrity and sovereignty. Joe Biden's comments were delivered at the opening of the so-called Quad meeting of Indo-Pacific leaders in Tokyo and came a day after he broke with convention and volunteered US military support for Taiwan, the self-governed island claimed by China.
The Russian brutal and unprovoked war against Ukraine has triggered a humanitarian catastrophe, and innocent civilians have killed in the streets, and millions of refugees are internally displaced as well as exiled.
He later left Japan, marking the end of his first presidential visit to Asia. A Russian court has rejected an appeal from the Kremlin critic Alexei Navalny against a 9-year prison sentence he is serving for fraud and contempt of court. Navalny, by far Russia's most prominent opposition figure, was handed the jail term in March for large-scale fraud and contempt of court on top of 2.5-year sentence he was already serving. He denies all the charges against him and says they were fabricated to thwart his political ambitions. Iran has held a large funeral in its capital, Tehran, for the assassinated Revolutionary Guards Colonel Hassan Syed Kodai. His coffin was carried through the streets, surrounded by mourners earlier. Kodai was shot dead by 2 people on a motorcycle in Tehran on Sunday. The ISNA news agency said members of an Israeli intelligence service network had been discovered and arrested by the guards. The commander of the Revolutionary Guards, Hossein Salami, vowed to take revenge for the killing. Residents of Ghana's capital, Accra, awoke to the sound of heavy rain and flash flooding earlier, causing some residents to flee to higher ground. Seasonal rains in West Africa, which tend to start in June and last until October, often cause deadly floods in urban areas. There have so far been no casualties reported following the flooding. The UK Prime Minister is facing fresh questions after photos showing the Prime Minister drinking at an event during a COVID lockdown were published. The pictures are believed to show Boris Johnson at a leaving party on the 13th of November in 2020. The Metropolitan Police are facing calls to explain why Mr Johnson did not receive a fine for the party. A government source said the photos may have been taken by the official number 10 photographer. That proved Mr Johnson was there in a work capacity. There were chaotic scenes in London as the footballer Kurt Zouma arrived for the first day of his trial, where he is accused of abusing his pet cat. The 27-year-old rushed into a group of waiting photographers under umbrellas, almost knocking several of them over. He and his brother faced charges under the Animal Welfare Act after a video of the attack was posted on social media in February. It showed Kurt Zouma dropping his tabby cat and kicking it across the floor. And finally, a Swedish freestyle skier has set a new world record for the longest rail grind on skis by completing a distance of 154.49 meters. Jesper Jada has enjoyed a prolific career in competition with a 2022 Olympic slopestyle bronze medal. It took him 3 days and 127 attempts to land the new Guinness World Record of 154.49 meters, reaching speeds of around 77 kilometers per hour on the rail. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel Studios in Lagos.